Welcome back, students. From today, we will be beginning a new lesson in the syllabus for class 10 physics, that is sources of energy. We use energy for various activities in our daily life. Heat energy, obtained by burning of fuels like wood, coal, LPG, or kerosene, is used to cook our food. Energy obtained by combustion of petrol, diesel, and CNG is used to run different types of automobiles as well as railway trains. Gasoline and aviation turbo fuel are used in aeroplanes. Fossil fuels like coal, petroleum, and natural gas are used to run thermal power plants, and electrical energy generated by these power plants is used in our homes, commercial establishments, and factories for performing different kinds of activities. From these and such other observations, we conclude that we use energy for all our day to day activities. Naturally, a question arises: what would happen if there is no energy? If there is no energy, we shall not be able to cook food, light up our houses during night time, use various electrical gadgets and appliances, use any means of transport, and so on. Thus, energy is so essential for our survival. In your junior classes, you have learned that although energy may be transformed from one form to another, but total energy of the universe must remain unchanged. If that is the situation, we should have no worries about energy resources. To answer this riddle, let us consider a simple example. If we light a wax candle, the chemical energy in the wax is converted to heat energy and light energy on burning. However, if we somehow put together the heat and light generated along with the gases produced during burning of a wax candle, we cannot get back the chemical energy in the form of a wax. This example shows that during burning of a candle, the energy in the usable form, that is the chemical energy, is being dissipated to the surroundings in less usable forms, that is heat energy and light energy. The same is true for all other cases. Hence, any source of energy we use to do work is consumed and cannot be used again. So, in this lesson, actually, we will be learning about the conventional as well as non conventional sources of energy and how these are harnessed. We will also learn about the relative merits and demerits of various techniques followed for harnessing energy for our use. Let us begin our discussion with understanding what is a good source of energy or an ideal source of energy. We can replace the word good source of energy or ideal source of energy with a good fuel or an ideal fuel. Let us first of all define a source of energy. A source of energy is one which can provide sufficient amount of energy in a convenient form for sustained use over a long period of time. In our daily lives, we use various sources of energy for doing work and for performing various activities. For example, diesel oil is used to run trucks, buses, and trains. Firewood, coal, and LPG are used to cook food. Electricity is used for lighting and to run various electrical appliances. One uses muscular energy while running a bicycle, and so on. In this context, we want to know which source of energy should be selected for doing a particular work or activity. So, a choice of a particular fuel or a source of energy selected for performing some work depends on different factors. For example, while selecting a fuel, we consider some of the very important factors like the amount of heat released by the given fuel on burning, the rate of release of heat by the given fuel on burning, the quantity of smoke produced, the easy availability of the given fuel, convenience in storing and transportation of the fuel, the price at which the given fuel is available, and for which purpose or for what type of work to be done we need the fuel. On the basis of answers to these questions, we can classify whether a given source of energy is a good source of energy or not. We consider a source of energy to be a good source if it performs a large amount of work per unit mass or volume. It is easily accessible. It is economical, that is easily available at an economical rate. It is easy to store and transport. It has a low and convenient point of combustion. we are actually referring to the ignition temperature, the temperature at which any fuel starts burning. And it's culturally acceptable, it causes no the least possible pollution in environment. Now, I would also like to mention at this point, like it does a large amount of work per unit mass or volume. By this, we are actually referring to the calorific value of the fuel. I hope you remember what is calorific value. The amount of heat energy released on complete burning of unit mass or unit volume for gaseous fuels, obviously, is called the calorific value of the fuel. It is usually measured in kilojoule per gram or kilojoule per cubic meter. Generally, energy sources available in nature are classified into two categories: renewable and non-renewable energy sources. In this page, you can see the pictures of some of the common renewable sources and non-renewable sources. So, let us very quickly understand what are renewable sources of energy. Renewable sources of energy are those natural resources which can be regenerated as we use them. Thus, those energy sources are inexhaustible and can be used to produce energy again and again. Renewable energy is available in a natural environment either in the form of some continuing or repetitive currents of energy, or is stored in such large underground reservoirs that the rate of depletion of the reservoir because of extraction of usable energy is practically negligible. The solar energy, energy harnessed from water flow, wind energy, energy harnessed from ocean waves and tides, biogas energy, and geothermal energy are examples of renewable sources of energy. Coming to non-renewable sources. These are the sources of energy whose reserves in nature are limited and which cannot be regenerated again. Thus, these energy sources are exhaustible and cannot be used to produce energy again and again. The fossil fuels like coal, petroleum, natural gas are examples of non-renewable sources of energy. As we have only limited reserves of these sources of energy, we need to conserve them and try to minimize their consumption. Conventional sources of energy and non-conventional sources of energy. Conventional sources of energy are the traditional sources of energy which are being used for centuries by common people to fulfill their energy needs. In ancient times, wood was the most common source of heat energy. The energy of flowing water and wind was also used for limited activities. Fossil fuels like coal, petroleum, and natural gas are commonly used sources of energy for last 200 years. In India, cow dung cakes have been a conventional source of energy. Then, obviously, the question arises, what are the non-conventional sources of energy? Actually, non-conventional sources of energy are those sources which are not commonly used. With more and more technological advancement and progress, our demand for energy is increasing day by day. The conventional sources of energy like the fossil fuels are available in limited quantity and are non-renewable in nature. Therefore, we cannot go on exploiting these resources blindly. To mitigate the problem, on one hand, we should develop advanced technology to use the conventional sources of energy more efficiently, and on the other hand, we should also look to new non-conventional, or what we commonly refer to as the alternate sources of energy. So these include hydroelectric energy, biomass, wind energy, solar energy, geothermal energy, tidal energy, and of course OTEC, that is ocean thermal energy plants, or ocean thermal energy, OTE. Conventional sources, so they are accumulated in nature for a very long time. They are non-renewable, that is, they take a long span to regenerate, and they are limited in nature. While the non-conventional are inexhaustible, regenerates in a short period of time. They are pollution free or low pollution during conversion and used to produce energy again and again. So now we will discuss a bit about the fossil fuels. I hope you know what are fossils. So, the manner in which fossils are formed, in a similar manner, these fuels are also getting generated. That is why the name fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are natural fuels which were formed deep under the earth's surface from the prehistoric remains of living organisms like plants and animals. Coal, petroleum, and natural gas are examples of fossil fuels. At present, the demand for energy is largely met by the fossil fuels. In India, about 75% of energy demand is met by the use of fossil fuels. Our technologies have also been developed by using these energy sources. There are only limited reserves of fossil fuels, and so these are non renewable sources of energy, and we need to conserve them. Big question arises how fossil fuels were formed. Millions of years ago, the plants and dead animals were gradually buried deep in the earth. Gradually, these were covered with sediments like mud and sand. In the absence of oxygen and under the condition of high pressure and temperature, the buried plants and animals were converted into fossil fuels. It is believed that buried remains of large plants were converted into coal reserves, and the remains of small plants and animals were converted into petroleum and natural gas. Today, we will be discussing about a common fossil fuel, that is coal. Now here I would like to mention one thing, that large amount of fossil fuel, that is coal, is burned to boil water to create steam which rotates turbines, and hence it is able to generate electricity. But before getting into the manner in which coal is being utilized to generate electricity on a larger scale, I would like to give you a little bit of information regarding how coal is formed, where are the common coal reserves found in India, and what are its basic uses. So, as I was telling you, that coal is a complex mixture of compounds of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, and some free carbon. Small amounts of nitrogen and sulfur compounds are also present in coal. When coal is burnt, the carbon present in coal reacts with atmospheric oxygen and carbon dioxide is formed. During the combustion, a lot of heat is produced, due to which coal is considered a good fuel. However, burning of coal produces a lot of smoke. I would like to show you a pie graph that will give you some idea regarding the total energy consumption in India. Even though this is an old data, that is for the year 2013, still it will give you some idea regarding the amount of energy that is obtained from coal. You can see in the year 2013, out of the total energy consumption in our country, 44% came from coal itself. And with every year passing by, very little change has been observed when it comes to depending on different energy sources for obtaining energy for utilization. We are still dependent on coal for obtaining a major portion of the energy to be utilized. In this map, you can see the locations of the different places where we are having coal mines and the places where it is being used for generation of electricity. Let me just zoom these maps one by one. In the first map, you can see the places where we are having the coal mines: Singrauli, Bokaro, Jharia, Raniganj, Korba, Talcher, Singareni, and Neyveli. So you can locate these places with the numbers in the map. Let's get to the second map so that you can identify the places where we are having the thermal power plants, the major thermal power plants. So these are some of the places in India where we are having the major thermal power plants. Now the question, how coal is formed? Coal is actually formed from the remains of plants that were buried under the surface of earth many years ago. Coal is formed when peat is altered physically and chemically. The process is called coalification. During coalification, peat undergoes several changes as a result of the bacterial decay, compaction, heat, and time. Peat deposits are quite varied and contain everything from pristine plant parts, that is, the roots, bark, spores, to decayed plants, decayed products, and even charcoal. If the peat caught fire during accumulation, peat deposits typically form in a waterlogged environment where plant debris accumulated. Peat block and peat swarms are examples. In such an environment, the accumulation of plant debris exceeds the rate of bacterial decay of the debris. The bacterial decay rate is reduced because the available oxygen in organic rich water is completely used up by the decaying process. Anaerobic, that is without oxygen decay, is much slower than aerobic decay. So, for the peat to become coal, it must be buried by sediment. Burial compacts the peat, and consequently, much water is squeezed out during the first stages of burial. Continued burial and the addition of heat and time causes the complex hydrocarbon compounds in the peat to break down and alter in a variety of ways. The gaseous alteration products, like methane, are typically expelled from the deposit, and the deposit becomes more and more carbon rich as the other elements disperse. The stages of this trend proceed from plant debris through peat, lignite, bituminous coal, anthracite coal to graphite, that is a pure carbon mineral. So you can get some idea regarding the transformation bit that is taking place right from peat to anthracite. So you can see in peat it is not a coal, to lignite which is brown coal, to bituminous which is soft coal, and finally to anthracite, that is hard coal. So peat is partially decayed plant matter in swamps and bogs, low heat content. Lignite, that is low heat content, low sulfur content, limited supplies in most areas. Bituminous, that is soft coal, extensively used as a fuel because of its high heat content and large supplies, normally as a high sulfur content. Finally, coming to the hard coal, that is anthracite, highly desirable fuel because of its high heat content and low sulfur content. Supplies are limited in most areas. Now, one thing you might observe that the conversion, the transition that is taking place right from peat to anthracite is governed by heat and pressure. So when it comes to increasing heat and carbon content, you move from peat to anthracite, and obviously anthracite would be considered the best quality coal. One of the main uses of coal depends upon its quality. The percentage of carbon present in a sample of coal is a measure of its quality. So when coal is heated in the absence of air, all the volatile material is removed from the coal and coke is formed. As coke is about 98% carbon, it is a much better fuel than coal. The calorific value of coke is high and it does not produce smoke on burning. Here you can see the basic setup of a coal mine. Even though it's not a part of your syllabus, still I wanted you to have a look into the setup that is usually seen in any common coal mines and how coal is extracted from these regions. In the previous pages you saw the major locations where we are having the coal mines, and I would also like to tell you at this point what are the basic uses of coal. Coal is used as a common fuel for cooking food and for heating purposes in home and in industry. Coal is used as a fuel in coal-based thermal power plants for generating electricity. Coal is used to manufacture coal gas as well as petrol and synthetic natural gas. Coke prepared from coal is used in metallurgical industry. So now we will discuss something about the thermal power plants. Large amount of coal is being utilized for generation of electricity in thermal power plants. So the question arises, how electricity is generated in a thermal power plant. Thermal power plant is an installation in which a fossil fuel is burned to produce heat, that is thermal energy, and then this heat energy is converted into electrical energy. In a commercial power plant, we need a turbine to rotate the shaft of dynamo, that is electrical generator, so that mechanical energy is converted into electrical energy. The simplest turbine has only one moving part known as a rotor blade assembly. Basically, we need to move the rotor blade assembly with a high speed which would turn the shaft of the dynamo. In a thermal power plant, large amount of fossil fuel is burned to heat up water to produce steam. The steam runs the turbine of a generator and as a result, electricity is generated. In fact, in a thermal power plant, chemical energy of fossil fuels is converted into heat energy. This heat energy is converted into mechanical energy which is then transformed into electrical energy. Since efficient transmission of electricity is easier than transporting fossil fuels like coal or petroleum over the same distance, hence a number of thermal power plants are set up near coal mines or oil fields. Today we will end our discussion at this point. We will be continuing our discussion about the other fossil fuels, that is petroleum, natural gas, and the different sources of energy in the coming sessions. Thank you.